It makes me feel good that people are receptive to my content.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way. And because of all of the bullying, I think it really affected my self-esteem. I just kind of try and do the best I can at being inclusive while trying to do the best that I can at still sticking to my morals and values and guides. It's hard having to meet everyone's needs and they all want to see themselves included every single time. When you place your joy and satisfaction in anything, any one thing, I recommend that you continue to build yourself as well.
Yes. You're giving us relationship tips here as well, Summer. What do you do? Summer, you've dedicated your TikTok to having conversations with people around the world and conversations that they probably don't usually have or they've never had with their father. 33% of children worldwide are growing up fatherless. What sparked the concept of Your Proud Dad?
When I first started creating my content, it was very much just following trends on TikTok, whether it was a dancing trend or trying to create a format to make funny videos. I've always liked doing content creation, whether it's photography or film or anything around that little sphere.
Awesome.
So when TikTok came up, of course I was apprehensive. I'm like, oh man, because I came up with, I grew up with like Vine, and Vine was the thing at the time. And so I really enjoyed Vine, and then TikTok came and I was like, At the time, it was called Musical.ly, and it was a lot of just lip syncing.
I never knew that. TikTok was Musical.ly.
Yes.
No way! Oh my gosh. Okay.
And so like it kind of evolved into where it is now. And at first I was like, lip syncing. I'm not really into lip syncing. I'm not really a lip syncer. And so at some point in time, I started interacting with the people on my TikTok channel as if we were face to face, rather than I make a piece of content and you view it. More so, I make a piece of content that you can interact with as much as you can with someone on the other side of the screen, right? And so at that point, I found that whether it was funny videos or whether it was something a little more meaningful, like motivational quotes or life advice, I started to move into this role as a digital parental guide. And I think I changed my TikTok name sometime in the beginning of 2021 to Your Proud Dad, because one of my followers ended up calling me a dad in one of his comments. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know necessarily how to take this, but I think maybe I can continue to find ways to help other people, whether it's teaching them little things here and there, or whether it's simply sharing some sort of time together via the screen.
You're helping people beat down their insecurities. You're making people feel accepted. I mean, how does that make you feel? Does that add like more pressure?
Right. I think a little bit if it does. For example, like as a Christian, there are certain ways that I try and live my life.
Yeah.
And when people they ask me if I would accept them, or not accept, support. Right. So acceptance, I think, is different than supporting. And it's way different than toleration. Toleration is just, I have to be with you. I try and move into that role of, I accept you for who you are. I still love you. I would still include you into the family. But then you go as far as support. It's like, well, I still have to maintain my own morals and values. So there are some things that I won't support. There's some things that I do support. There's some things I'm still on the fence about, but I trust that God can be perfect even through all of those things that I'm still on the fence about. And so it can be a little bit stressful. It's hard having to meet everyone's needs in that everyone wants things to be done in a specific way, and they all want to see themselves included every single time. I don't think that can be the case all the time. So I just kind of try and do the best I can at being inclusive while trying to do the best that I can at still sticking to my morals and values and guides. So
awesome. And speaking of inclusivity, have you always felt like that, like growing up? Have you always felt included?
No, I haven't always felt included. I think that's a big part of why I made the channel that I did. When I was growing up, there were times where I was bullied. And also there were times where I didn't quite have the best relationship with my parents and my dad specifically. I think more so the bullying part, though, kind of plays a role in the kind of space that I tried to set up on my TikTok. That space of, okay, you're here and I want you to feel some love while you're here on my account. I want you to feel some acceptance while you're here on my account. Even if it's like a 30 or 60-second video, I think back to the times where I was like on the playground or something like that. And there were times where I didn't have friends to hang out with, or because of all of the bullying, I think it really affected my self-esteem.
Yeah, it would do.
And there were times where I just couldn't get out of my shell to make those friends. And so whether it was one or the other, I found myself just, by myself a lot. And I
Yeah.
didn't want other people to feel that way. And I think in a way, I want other people to find the tools, whether through small talk and communication or through any of the life advice that I try to give on my channel, that one day they won't necessarily need those portions of my channel. Now, they'll still come for entertainment or whatever, but they won't need to have that virtual companion because they'll have the tools that they need and the confidence that they need from just stepping out of their own shell every single day. And while they're doing that, knowing that they have just a little space on the internet where there is someone who thinks about them and prays about them or prays for them and tries to love on them as hard as it can be to, like, say you're loving on millions of people. That's hard. So, I do my best.
Doing amazingly well. I mean, like, which segment is your favorite one? Because you've got so many. You've got Dinner with Dad, which I love. Like, which
Right.
one do you favor the most?
Well, it depends. When I first started out, it was a lot more tutorial based. So my
Yeah, yeah,
first viral videos were like how to shave, how to brush your teeth, how to do hygiene stuff. I think from there, I added in a cooking series. So how to cook basic foods, whether it was oatmeal or rice, to more complex foods. There's this food called zangzi or zhengjie. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's a food usually prepared at the Chinese, I think it's the Chinese Dragon Festival.
yeah,
Again, if anyone's listening and they can correct me, please correct me. But it's basically this savory or sweet kind of dumpling
yeah, yeah. Oh,
that's
that sounds
prepared
good.
in a bamboo leaf. And so, probably a little bit ambitious for a TikTok video, but it came out really good. And I think that I would say probably the cooking series it's neck and neck with this Dinner and Dad series. It's
Yeah.
very neck and neck because I really like to cook. Even if can't eat all the food and I have to save it later or save it for later or give it to a friend or a neighbor, I really like to cook. But I also like the Dinner with Dad series because something about the responses makes me feel really fulfilled. So,
Yeah, I can imagine. Speaking of some of the responses, Summer,
right.
they've been like mind blowing and going through the comments. I'm going to read a couple of them. Yeah,
Okay.
just to bring back some memories.
Okay.
So we've got so this was actually on one of the Dinner with Dad videos. One person wrote, "My dad died last year, and this account means a lot to me. Thank you." And another read, "I wish I had a dad who cared this much." How does that make you feel reading through the comments?
I think it makes you feel a couple of things. The first thing it makes you feel is it makes you feel fulfilled and it makes you feel good that people are receptive to my content. It
Yeah.
wasn't always that way, and I'm sure it's still a mixed bag, right? Of people who say, "Oh, I don't think this is needed," or "Oh, this is weird," and some people were like really gung ho about it. They're like really excited to see it. So I think it just makes you feel makes me feel supported. It makes me feel fulfilled, and I'm really glad that God is using me in this way. It's like throughout my Christian walk, my faith background, my faith journey, I found myself really, really reading into the ways that I struggled and thinking, oh, Jesus will never use me in this way. He'll never
Mm.
use me in that way. And he's just been blowing my mind. He's been using me in this way and that way and finding ways to still get his message out. And finding ways to allow me to practice what it means to love others the way that he loved us. That's like, a lot of what the TikTok channel is for me. If I know it's content and it's entertaining, but a lot of it's practice. But some of the other ways it makes me feel like there's a lot of pressure. Some of the comments are like, "Oh, you're such an angel, you're going straight to heaven," or like, "You're the best," or I want to be your kid," or "Can you adopt me?" Like, those are well-meaning, but I never want to take the place of Jesus. And I never want to be compared to that in any way, shape, or form. So it always makes me cringe a little bit when someone says, "Oh, you're going straight to heaven." I'm like, well, the road to heaven is not necessarily what you do, but how you place your faith, and then the other stuff comes right after it. So, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but I believe that Jesus died on the cross to pay for the sins that we have done, and that people who believe in Him and accept that are able to have a relationship with Him. But
Yeah.
it's not anything that it's like a bartering system. It's not like I can like say, you know what, I'm going to do 100,000 good things, and that way I can have a relationship with Christ. Not
Mm.
necessarily, because He knows that we can't be perfect. He knows that. He's like, this is why I had to send my son to die on the cross and to pay for those sins, because you can't be perfect. No one can be perfect. And so when people say he's going straight to heaven because of what he's doing, I'm like, I hope one day that if you're interested in Christianity or you're interested in a relationship with Christ, that you're able to look through and see that the pressure is off. You don't have to perform for Christ because you can't, but also because it's just a relationship. It's just a relationship that you have with your Creator, and that makes it a lot less pressure to say, I'm gonna wake up one day, or I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, and I'm just gonna try and have a relationship with God,
Mm.
rather than thinking, okay, I'm gonna wake up today, I have to be on my P's and Q's, do this thing right, do this thing right. It's not gonna work out. So it kind of makes me feel like a little anxious sometimes, and I constantly be reminding myself to like pray to God and tell Him thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and
Mm.
kind of remember like to continue to check myself because it can be really easy to become prideful, and I'm really trying to combat that because it's like that's like an ugly spirit, to be prideful.
Yeah.
I hate
Yeah.
that. So fulfilled and supported, but also like I'm trying to be vigilant about how I take everything in, uh,
Mm.
and who's getting the proper glory for that. So
Yeah, that's amazing, Summer, because it
mhm,
really keeps you grounded.
right, I agree. The thing is like this could be here today and then it could be gone tomorrow. The way that the social media landscape, it ebbs and flows, and
Mm.
I experienced that multiple times throughout my creator journey, and some points in times sometimes it really gets to me, but other times I'm like, I'm really thankful for this lull right now because I can catch my breath, or I'm really thankful for this lull right now because it allows me to explore deeper into the types of content and the types of formats that I really want to create and see if that
Wow.
takes. I think sometimes a lot of people they begin to taste success and they stick with the same exact format. You see it all over TikTok.
Mm.
Someone's making the same joke where they're making the same format and they're just doing it over and over and over and over. When I first started my content creation, I wanted to make sure that I had a diversified amount. As you see, all those playlists, they're all diversified. And right now, I think I'm focusing a lot more on the dinner with dads just because I work a daytime job,
Mm.
and it's kind of hard to do a tutorial at the end of the workday, like, oh, this is how you fix your sink. I'm like, no, I want to go to bed. So, um, but yes, it's something having something to keep you grounded.
Mm.
It's actually like really similar to this relationship advice that I gave one of my TikTok followers. They were telling me that they had just broken up with a significant other
Yeah.
and that they felt empty because they had placed all of their joy into this one person.
Oh, wow.
And I said, first I had to like affirm their feelings, like, man, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. It's okay to feel the way you feel. It's okay to go through the journey that you're going to go through with all of these emotions. But I want to give you a tip. When you place your joy and satisfaction in anything, any one thing, I recommend that you continue to build yourself as well. Get
Yes.
invested in some hobbies, find a community of people that you can really grow with, invest in yourself,
Yes.
and then you can build a relationship with your partner. But if your partner leaves, you still have all these other things that can support you through that grieving process. And you haven't placed your joy in this one thing. You should never place your joy in this one thing. Diversify your basket
Yes.
of things.
Oh, you're
You know,
giving us relationship tips here as well, Summer. What can you do? But I love that, like what you said, like diversify your things, because when you put your joy in something, it's like you're giving that thing power.
yes, yes, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to invest. I don't want people to think that you should stray away from trying to commit to something. Absolutely do so, but I want you to realize that when you commit to something and it's only that one thing and all of your energy goes into that one thing, you
Mm.
have to be prepared that if that's your only pillar and you lose that pillar, you don't have anything else. So you have to invest in yourself too. As if your partner leaves, this is one thing I actually struggle with. This is codependency. I feel um, like growing up, it was always hard to lose friends. It was always hard to believe that people actually, and still now, it's hard
Yeah.
to believe that
Yeah.
people actually want to be my friend. I'm always second guessing myself. And when I found someone as a friend or anything else who gives me a little bit of that like interest, I'm like, that's like me right there. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
great, this is awesome, really cool. And then I find that I kind of shift my life around this new friendship. And so if they're going off on a trip or if they're busy with their day, I'm like, dang, now what else do I do? Like, what do I do with my time? I just wait for them to get back or what? And I have to constantly prime myself to say, okay, Summer, hold on a second. First, did you check that you actually like this person as well. Because just because they gave you some interest doesn't mean that they're good for you. And if that checks out, you're like, hey, yeah, there are these qualities of this other person that I really enjoy. The next question is, okay, what about you? Don't you have interests? Like, you're into photography, you're into content creation, you like to go out and work out at the gym, you have other friends. Why aren't you doing any of these other things? You can do these other things too. I have to remind myself, like, yes, go and do these other things, be independent of them. Like, if they left, you could still have these other things. But when you're together, of course, enjoy that relationship, have joy from the interactions you have with them. And yes, it's okay to like experience joy in that, but just remember that you are a whole human being over here, and you're not attached at the hip. Your joy isn't attached at the hip with this other person, as it shouldn't be. I think that partners should rely on each other in certain ways, and they should show each other that they appreciate each other. But at the same time, if that partner has to go out to work, or if they have to go out on a work trip, you should be able to continue on with your life and your hobbies and your other friends as well, because you have a whole. Don't let it all depend on them. Don't be codependent. It's easier said than done. Be you as well. And so that's something that I'm trying to been working on for the last year. And that's something that you can continue to work on. Just taking a step. That first step I recommended to them, that person who came into my inbox, I said, hey, remind yourself what your hobbies are.
Yeah.
It's really, really easy. Remind yourself what your hobbies are, and take an account of the people that are really close in your life. It can be really easy when you get into a new relationship to only see that person, and everyone else kind of fades into the background, and you forget, okay, before that person came along, I had this awesome friend group that I used to go out on the weekends with, or that we used to go and indulge in whatever hobbies that we indulge in together. Don't lose those people. Like, they're still there, so just finding a way to cross connect all of that, and
find that balance as well. And as you said, like, find your interests, your hobbies. What do you enjoy doing?
yes,
There's so much out there.
yes, absolutely.
I mean, what would your advice be, Summer, to boys and girls who are watching or listening? They're fatherless. They feel like they're lacking hope, their self-belief right now.
Right.
What key piece of advice would you give them?
That's a hard question to answer. I'm trying to think back to the advice that I give most often. Probably to take care of yourself and to be kind. It's just a friend of mine. His name is Ame Moore. He says, be kind to yourself. Be kind to you. And I think that encapsulates a lot. Be kind to you, and be okay with feeling the way you feel in the moments where you miss what you don't have and you never had. Be okay with the times that you're angry. Be okay with the times that you're angry and you feel like you never needed this person or whatever. Be okay with feeling the way you feel. But be kind to yourself in that you want to allow yourself the opportunity to heal, and put in effort in those opportunities as well. I would say that although I grew up with both of my parents, so I can't necessarily respond to it, but I would say you're still enough, and you're still worthy of love and accepting love and being able to love others.
Great words. I mean, you're already doing so much. Where do you envision yourself, Summer? Let's say like 20 years from now.
20 years from now, I hope that I'm making content full time. I love to do photography, so I hope that I'm able to travel the world and take people's portraits. That would be freaking amazing. That would be super cool. And then maybe even some public speaking in there as well.
Yeah.
That would be really, really cool. So,
I could see you doing that, definitely public speaking also, and photography, all of it. I could just see you doing it. It's going to be incredible. Yeah, you've got such great vibes, as probably young listeners and viewers will say. You got such great vibes, you've got such great energy, and anything you want, I know it's going to flow to you. You're such an amazing person. The fact that you've dedicated your TikTok channel to others, I mean, come on, it says a lot about you. I mean, how can the viewers and listeners, how can they connect with you and see more work?
Right. On Instagram, I have my tag is @officialyourprouddad, but the majority of my content you will find on TikTok @yourprouddad on TikTok. On my Instagram and TikTok, you'll also find an email address. If you wanted to have any specific business engagements, please don't mass spam my email. It's kind of hard to, definitely hard to get to all of them. And I have to remind myself all the time that I don't have to get to all of them. I just try my best to use them.
But do you know what? Something that I've really, really taken away from our conversation, Summer, is like what you're saying in terms of like embracing the lows. Like it's so important to embrace the
Yes.
lows, because
Right.
it's part of our life. It's part of our journey. We can't always be on a high all the
Right.
time.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And that's something I was talking to a therapist about. I sought therapy for the first time, like real
Yeah.
therapy for the first time, like last year. That was the first time I had done it. And there have been other opportunities where I could have, but I don't know what caused me to pull the trigger and do it. But if you can find ways to seek therapy, seek therapy. I know in the US, there's this thing called Medicaid, where you're able to have free therapy sessions. You have to fill out an application, of course, but as someone who's familiar with Medicaid or government insurance, you can find yourself being able to find a therapist and a provider. But one of the things that my therapist said was, be okay with the times where you're down as well. The thing is, I feel like when I was growing up, I always thought, okay, being happy is where you should be, and
Like
being
all the
sad is
time,
where you
isn't
should be.
it?
Yeah, you should always be
Yeah.
up here at the happy, but
Mm,
that's not necessarily realistic or
yeah,
right. I think that being able to be here
that's it.
is okay. And sometimes you have those lows, but being able to be in the middle portion and being satisfied with saying, hey, today's a perfectly average day and
Mm,
I'm okay with that. Or today I'm just feeling like so. Or today even I'm feeling a little bit low and I don't have to self-medicate to get back up to that high,
mm,
because it's okay for me to feel the way that I feel. The feelings, I think, and I don't want to minimize at all depression or mental health. Those are things that I struggle with as well. I will say that it's okay to feel the lows. My therapist, I think she once said, the feeling doesn't hurt you.
yeah.
It's not going to hurt you. The feeling of feeling the way you feel is not going to hurt you. But
Mm,
that's why you have a support system that you grow, friends and families, and you try coping tools with hobbies and things that you enjoy so that you can find ways to still function. And when you get out of that low, or trying to find ways to work yourself out of that low, or whether it's prayer or work and talking to a friend or journaling, you
mm,
find ways to manage all those highs and lows. And you just go through life, because life is highs and lows, as you know. Life is highs and lows, and you just kind of manage your way through it. And everybody experiences them in some degree or another. And in that way, as a human being, you're not alone. You're not alone.
you are someone that even your mother and father should be very proud of. You
I
are
think they
incredible.
are.
Yeah, I
They're
can
really proud of
imagine. I can
themselves.
imagine. Yeah, I
No,
can
I really
imagine.
appreciate that. Thank you so much. Life is highs and lows.